Mr. Transformers 96 here. In the video, I'm going to talk about some newly shown Transformers products. These are the third-party products from Saviour. They're obviously making their own kind of knockoff version of Devastator from the Transformers movie. And here we have two new figures that create the left arm for Devastator, or in their case, Troublemaker. And that's Bomber and Paranoider. Weird names for these two. Obviously Hightower, and then the other one that we've really never ever seen before, which I find that one quite interesting. That's definitely the one that I'm most interested to talk about. But in this video, I'm going to be talking about both of these together. It does actually look like these are being sold as a pack together, which I actually like a lot. I think that it's cool that like the two kind of like smaller Constructicons are being sold as one set, which is pretty neat. This is in, this company has been releasing their Constructicons kind of at the same time as Hasbro's been releasing theirs. So it's been interesting to see their versions compared to Hasbro's versions. I think that overall, obviously, these do look a little bit better. However, they don't look so much better than Hasbro's, considering they cost a whole lot more than Hasbro's. So that's kind of the trade-off. Their Devastator, though, there's been one preview image of Troublemaker, and he looks really great as a whole. But let's talk about these two. So these are very interesting Constructicons. Before we get into the actual Constructicons themselves, here's Devastator's arm. I think that they look quite good as an arm. You really can't see, any robot pieces at all from them. They look really good. I like the little launcher pieces here for him to kind of shoot those grappling hooks, which Scrapper, their version of Scrapper, also comes with the same type of grappling hooks, which I think is very cool. I think that the fingers that they make look great, too. It looks like they have a lot of good articulation there. There's both of them in their vehicle modes as far as all of the stuff that they come with as well. You get the grappling hooks, as you can see. They're full, like, actual real chains for the actual grappling hooks. They come with maybe the most interesting piece of Troublemaker. I'm very surprised that those are actually being included, and just being included as, like, accessories is very strange. But nonetheless, I think that the vehicle modes on these two look quite good as well. And then there is the full shot of his arms. As you can see, I think that the fingers are great. That's one thing that this really excels in as far as like the sculpting of Devastator's pieces, because I think that this is a fantastic left arm. I can't see any better way of making it. It just looks perfect. And like this is something that, just crushes Hasbro's version. Hasbro's left arm is fine. It's rather large because it is two Constructicons just like this. However, the fingers do not look as good as this. The fingers are pretty decent on Hasbro's versions, but these I think just look more accurate because they're really like basically just scoops in the movie. So I do like that a lot. So here's a Bomber, the Constructicon that was never in the movie, nor is there any, like, concept art for this one. I mean, he's kind of in the movie because you do see, like, a little robot kind of crawling on the ground, and then, Devastator's, like, the top half Hightower smashes down on it and connects it as, like, the hands. There's a close-up of that. However, it doesn't, like, look like a robot. It just looks like it's the arm that's walking. So I think that their representation of it being that the fingers for Devastator are his legs, and therefore maybe he was actually just walking, but we just couldn't see his head in the shot, is actually kind of interesting. I actually like the design of this robot quite a bit. As you can see, he can kind of, you can represent him shooting those little latch pieces the same way that Scrapper can, which I think looks very good. There you can kind of see an undershot of him. And overall, I think that he just looks really neat. I like the kind of spider motif walking wise. I like the hands themselves look a little underwhelming. The way that they're just like little pinchers. I wish that they had a little bit more of like actual hand look to them. This robot almost looks like when I'm sure that you can relate to this. While you're transforming a figure, you get into like this in-between stage when you're taking them, from robot mode to vehicle mode, where you can almost like make a makeshift new-looking robot, and that's kind of what this one feels like. It looks like it's an in-between transformation, making it look kind of crazy type of a thing, which I kind of think is interesting. I think it's a neat idea. As you can see, there is a way to transform him where he just basically has the two legs showing, and he looks a little bit more humanoid, but I think he looks really weird because he's like all torso, and then he's got skinny arms and skinny legs. He just looks strange. So I prefer the spider-like, four-legged type of look. I think that's actually really cool. Vehicle mode looks very nice as well. Then we have Hightower. This is an odd version of Hightower. I'm not a huge fan of it, to be honest. I think that it has a really squished head, and that's my number one complaint with it, is that the head looks like it's flat. It looks like it's paper, and I don't understand why the head has no dimension. I mean, you could say that maybe they need to fit it in some place that needs to be, like, specifically flat, but at the same time, like, I feel like they could make it where his head is, a little bit bigger, like make it a half of an inch thicker, and that would have kind of fixed it, because he's got like this weird flat head. It looks like a cartoon, character came out with a mallet and smashed his head and made it like, paper thin. It looks ridiculous. The rest of him looks okay. I'm not a big fan of the humanoid looking hands. Like, it looks like he's got human hands. I'd prefer something more, mechanical or robot-like, because otherwise it just looks like human hands. The one thing that I really like about it is the claw piece really looks like a claw hand. I think that looks nice. But overall, I'm not huge on this version of Hightower, to be honest. Now, as you can see, you can replace the ball and chain kind of area here to have multiple different looks, which is kind of neat. And the vehicle mode looks very good. And then the two of them together, I think, do look quite neat. I love the fact that they are selling them as a set together, basically, as like two of the small Constructicons as a part of the set. I do think it's cool. Hightower, I'm not a big fan of. Not a fan of the flat head, not a fan of the humanoid hands, and the rest of the figure looks okay, just doesn't look that great, but it's fine. I love Bomber, this new version, which, doesn't even really have a name in the movie. He's cool. I like him quite a bit. I wish that Hasbro, because they went with a different Constructicon as Devastator's left hand, they went with scrap metal, which, again, doesn't have much of a bearing in the movie, but it's kind of like, it's weird, because Devastator's left hand is kind of the mystery. Nobody knows who makes up his left hand. But I think this interpretation of his left hand is much cooler, much more interesting than Hasbro's interpretation of it. The one that Hasbro did is very generic, while this one, I think, is rather unique, fits in with the design of the Constructicons as well. I think that it does look cool. My only complaint with it is that the face sculpt is very Rampage. It looks almost identical to Rampage, maybe Rampage with a mustache or something. It's very similar to him, so I wish that the face sculpt had more of a unique personality to this Transformer. Nonetheless, though, I overall really like the idea of the figure, especially seeing, like, the only shot of him that we see in the movie is, like, the little fingers crawling on the ground when, he's forming Devastator, so to see that this is kind of maybe how he walks, that makes a lot more sense in that scene, and therefore it adds a little bit extra to that scene in general. So, overall, I love what they did with the hand. As far as the arm with Hightower, not a big fan of it. It's okay, but it's not that great. Excuse me. Hasbro's version is a little bit cleaner, I'd say, because it doesn't have the weird human arms. It has arms that you'd expect with him, like little pincher claws. It doesn't have just like regular arms, it's weird. And then I also, he doesn't have the flat head, so I almost like Hasbro's version better of Hightower. But nonetheless, this is a cool set, and I think as a full Devastator arm, they look fantastic. They're perfect. So there you go, that's my thoughts on these new Constructicons from Devil Savior. They've been producing a lot of really cool ones. I'm trying to think, actually. I think that they've shown the majority of their figures. I'd have to take another review. I think maybe they haven't showed Rampage yet. I'm not sure. But overall, they've been showing a lot of cool ones. And can't wait to see, the final products for these and to see the colored versions. Personally, I would love to get them all. But they'd be very expensive at that point, considering they're quite expensive on their own. And you need to buy all of them to make Devastator. But nonetheless, I think that they're doing a cool job. I do like their interpretations of these characters too. So let me know what you guys think of these new figures from Devil Savior, being the Constructicons for Devastator, or the whatever-icons for Troublemaker, whatever you want to call it. And thanks so much for watching.